Hey everybody, welcome to Math Academy, our first Math Academy after state assessments. Let's talk about what we're learning, why we're learning this, and how you'll know if you've successfully learned what you need to. So what we're learning today is we're moving on into our next unit. We're going to start with some vocabulary, so you're going to be able to understand key vocabulary associated with finding the volume of curved figures. Why are we learning this? So again, we're beginning our new unit, and it's over curved figures. We need to become familiar with the vocabulary we're going to be using during this section so that we are better prepared and ready to go. So how will you know if you successfully learned what you needed to? So when given a term, if you can create a question, use your question, write your summary at the end, you'll have been successful for the day. So let's go ahead and get started. We are going to be taking some Cornell notes, again, over volume of curved figures. So we'll talk about these things as we go through. It's been a little bit since we've taken some notes, since we kind of took a break for assessments. So we'll walk through this a little bit together. So here's your first slide. I'm going to give you a minute and a half to write down this information. All right, guys, our time is up. Let's go back through and talk about what you should have written down. So, again, our unit title for this section is volume. So we'll talk about what that means of curved figures. And there's three specific ones that we'll be looking at, three specific figures. So we'll get to that here in a second. Let's look at our goals or our objectives for this unit. Remember, everybody is participating. We're all a team. We all say the words. So when we get to an underlined or bolded word that you had to write down, you're going to say that out loud, just like what we do. Okay? Here we go. So it says, first of all, our goal is to use knowledge to the formula for figures. Okay, so again, we're talking about volume. There's some formula that we're going to use, but you guys are going to kind of discover the formula. I'm not going to give it to you. Okay, let's go to the next one. You guys start us off, so on three, you're going to say the first word. Ready? 1, 2, 3. The created formula to the volume of, and okay, so we talked about up here, there's three types of figures we're really going to focus on, and here they are, cylinders, cones, and spheres. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so our first word we're going to discuss is volume. Everybody say volume. One more time, say volume. So this isn't like volume on the stereo or volume in the radio you turn up in the car. It's a little bit different. So for volume, we're going to write this stuff down, give you 45 seconds, and then we will discuss. All right, so you should have had some time to write this information down. Let's go ahead and go over it. So one more time, everybody say our word, volume. Okay, so volume is the amount of a figure. So it's the amount of space inside of a three-dimensional figure. So the important thing to remember is that it's inside. So when we're talking about our three different shapes here, which we're going to get to today, we're talking about what's inside. So think of like a cylinder right here is kind of like a cup. So when you fill a cup with water, the amount of water it can hold is like the volume of that cylinder. So what can fit inside of our cylinder? Okay, one more time. Say volume. All right, so let's get into our question that we're going to write. So as always, this question goes in your left column. You're going to have 45 seconds up on the timer to write your question. Our question is over the word volume. Remember, when you write our question, we're not just saying what is volume or define volume. We're thinking of a better question than that. Use your levels of questions that you have taped to your desk or what's up on the screen to help you write it. And be prepared to share. Okay, now that our time is up, I'm going to give you another 20 seconds. I want you to turn and share with your partner, starting with partner number 1. Say your question. All right, so we should have had time to write our question and share our question. Remember, those questions are going to guide our summary. So your question should be a question that you can answer in your summary that's going to help you understand what volume means. Let's go on to our next word. So our next word is cylinder. Everybody say cylinder. One more time, say cylinder. Okay? So again, I'm going to give you time to write. We're jotting down everything that's on here, including what we need for our examples. All right, our 1 minute is up, so hopefully we had a chance to write information down. Again, let's go ahead and go through what we have. You guys, as always, everybody is going to help me out with these bolded, underlined words. So again, our word was cylinder. Everybody say cylinder. Here we go. So a cylinder is a object with two bases. So again, it's a three-dimensional object with parallel, congruent, circular bases. So if we think about the base, what it's talking about the base is this circle part. Circular was one of our words. So on all of these different types, so we have a regular cylinder here, which is also a right cylinder. Either way you call it is the same because it makes a right angle when we have the height and the radius. So the base, the top and the bottom have to be circles. Same thing with the oblique, even though it's a little bit diagonally slanted, we still have two circles. They're congruent. Remember, congruent means the exact same size and shape. So our congruent bases have to be the same. And then they're circular, so they look like a circle or an oval. Okay? One more time, our word was cylinder. Everybody say cylinder. Very good. All right, let's go on to our question. You have 45 seconds to write your question for cylinder. Again, no repeat questions and no easy questions like what is a cylinder. Ready, go. All right, guys, our 45 seconds is up. I'm going to give you another 20 seconds to share with your table partner. This time I want table partner number 2 to go first. All right, and our 20 seconds is up. Remember, guys, when you're writing and reading your questions, that these questions should be, again, questions you can answer in your summary. This is going to help you study. This is going to help you better understand our words. So make sure your questions correlate with what we're talking about. All right, let's go on to our next word. Our next word is really going to be 2 words, but they go really well together, and that's radius. Everybody say radius. One more time, say radius. And the second word is diameter. Everybody say diameter. So put them together, say radius and diameter. Okay, so let's talk about what radius and diameter really mean. So I'll give you a second again. Go ahead and you're going to be writing down. Go ahead and also put our examples in yours. All right, so our time is up. Let's go ahead and look back at what we had. So again, our first word was radius. Everybody say radius. All right, so again, you guys have the bolded underlined word. So the radius is the distance from of the base to any place along and basically this is, so if we think about radius, here's our example. So hopefully you put radius, and hopefully you have our dotted line. It's from the center, and it can go to any side of our base. So I could have drawn my line this way. I could have drawn it over this way. I drew mine just going to the right. You should have a label on yours. Here's our radius. So think of the radius as halfway across our base. Okay. Let's go to our next word. Everybody say diameter. All right. Again, you guys got the underline. So it says the diameter is the distance from one of the base to the other edge, which is, okay, so in diameter, we're thinking all the way across. Just think of it that way. Radius is halfway, diameter all the way across of our base, which is a circle. Okay? All right, let's go on to our question. Time is starting. Go ahead and write your question down for radius and diameter. All right, guys, our time for writing is up. Let's go ahead and share it with our table partner, and you are going to start with partner number 1 this time. Go. Okay, guys, our time is up. Hopefully you had a chance to share your question for radius and diameter. Few more words here we got to get through. You're doing a great job. The next word is kind of a tough one because it's long, but it's circumference. Everybody say circumference. One more time, say circumference. Okay? So if we look at circumference, again, I'm going to give you a second. This would be the first example on the back side of your notes. So go ahead and write this down. Okay, so let's go through this one more time. Again, say circumference. Again, circumference. All right, so we've heard that word a bunch of times now. So the circumference is, again, help me out, it is the around the of a. Okay, so basically what we're saying is circumference is the distance around the outside. So think about perimeter. So we've talked about before that the outside of a square, so if I just use this white box that I have here, if I outside of a square, I add up all the sides, that gives me the perimeter. Well, on a circle like this, you can't add up the sides because there's really no side. So it's called the circumference around the outside, and there's a formula you use. So hopefully you wrote this down. The formula is circumference equals 2 pi r. So it's 2 times pi times the radius. Remember, we just talked about the radius is halfway across. So it's 2 times pi times halfway across our circle to get the formula and our answer for circumference. Okay, so I'm going to give you another couple seconds here. Go ahead and write down your question. Be prepared to share it. Remember, as you're writing, this is not a what does circumference mean? What is circumference? Define circumference. We're trying to get away from those questions. We also, again, don't want to reuse questions we've already used. So do your best to come up with a brand new, higher level question. All right, guys, turn to your partner and share, starting with partner number 2 this time. Very good job. So we have 2 more words left. We're almost done. So one of those words is going to be cone. Everybody say cone. One more time, say cone. Okay, so again, here's your time to write down, and then we will talk it over. Okay, guys, hopefully a chance to write this down. Let's go ahead and go over it. One more time, everybody say our word cone. All right, so help me out with it. So a cone is a object with a or base. So again, the base is the bottom part of our shape, and that needs to be circular like a circle or an oval. So you can see that we have that. Over in your example, hopefully you showed our dotted line. So we have H for height, and R, as we learned, is radius. This makes a 90-degree angle. Now, this is very, very important. When you talk about the height of a cone, you always have to measure it straight up and down. So the height is not this diagonal side. So if you're ever doing a problem and they give you the diagonal, that's just trying to throw you off. This is not the height. The height has to be measured straight up and down. Okay? So let's go ahead and move on to our question. 45 seconds. Write your question down. All right, guys, go ahead and share with your shoulder partner. Part number 2, start us off. Go. Okay, guys, great job so far today. You've done excellent. Let's move into our last word. So our last word is sphere. Everybody say sphere. One more time, say sphere. All right, so I'm going to switch it over. Go ahead and jot this down. So we have some things we want to add to our example. When you're doing your example, please make sure that you put our dotted line and our circle in the middle. Make sure you have the radius marked and all of these arrows, okay? Go ahead and write it down. All right, so hopefully you had a chance to write. Let's go ahead and look through our last word. So one more time, the word was sphere. Everybody say sphere. Very good. All right, so a sphere is a three-dimensional, so pretty self-explanatory. 3D has to have 3 dimensions, has some depth to it, and it has to be round. So there were some things that you had to add to your note. First of all, you had to put a point in the center. That's called the center of the sphere. I know that's a tricky name. There's a place in the center, and it's called the center. Really tough. We also have what's called the Great Circle, which is a crazy name, but really it's just talking about this circle that makes the sphere 3 dimensions. This is the circumference, so this is how far it is around the outside of our circle. So the Great Circle could go up and down all the way around. It could go diagonally around. Most of the time you're going to see it side to side like this one is. So again, when you see that, just know that they're talking about the circumference. Most of the time they're going to give you the radius, which is halfway across. Every once in a while they'll give you all the way across. Turn to your partner and remind them what the name for all the way across the circle is. hopefully you just said diameter, so diameter is all the way across. But if they give you the radius, which they will most of the time, that's just halfway. Okay? All right, so we are on to our last question. You guys have done a great job. Give you 45 seconds to write a final closing question. And finally, turn to your partner, starting with partner number 1, and read your question. Go. Okay, so as we close up class today, I need everybody to listen. So before you start writing your summary, listen to what this is saying. So we've done this several times. So again, using complete sentences, you're going to answer each of your questions that you created to summarize today's notes. You should have at least one sentence for each of the questions you created. Okay, so think about how many words we talked about, how many sentences you made. That's how many sentences you should have in your summary. Please remember, be specific when you answer your questions. So I want you to think about this. So again, listen before you write so you don't mess this up. I should be able to read your summary and not have to look back at your question to see what you're talking about. So if your summary, your sentence that answers your question, doesn't have the word in it that you're discussing, so if I wrote a question about circumference and my sentence for my summary just jumps right into it and doesn't even talk about circumference, it just goes into an answer, we need to fix our sentence to be very specific. So I should be able just to read your summary and have a really good understanding of the words we talked about and what our notes are about. Okay? So we're going to finish class by writing our summary. Then at the end, you're going to share it with your table partner. Great job today, guys.